Hey guys, I want to welcome you and let you know how great it is to have you here for the Greater Purpose Podcast.
What's up? That's how they
Welcome to the Greater Purpose Podcast from the Cubs room. Hear the cheering crowd?
This place is incredible.
Yeah, see there? But the cheering crowd, you hear them in the background?
They're there.
Never mind, you can't. You are. They are there, right?
They're here in spirit.
That's great. Yeah, that's right. You're in spirit, right? Now, I am going to be adjusting my height throughout this entire podcast because this guy is so tall. I feel like really short. I felt short next to Brad. I felt short next to Ted. Let's see, Scott Sheehan. He's really tall. Now I feel really short because
Bill, you're like you got to just sit closer to the camera. You're like one of those fishermen, holds out the fish real close to make it look nice and big.
Oh, hey!
There you go. Now we're about the same height, right?
Yeah, but my head is 14 times bigger than yours. That's great. I love it. Cool. Well, here we are for the podcast. Glad you can be here. I got to do my due diligence. So my executive producer, who is not here, because I didn't tell him about this podcast, so it's my fault. He's working, but Stephen Wright is not able to be here, but that's okay. He is here in spirit, right? But got to do my due diligence so I don't get fired from my own podcast. You can go to bwasap.com. Wait, I don't want to uncover the dot. No, you don't need all that right now. bwasap.com. You can go to the you can get all the podcasts through YouTube. You can go to other websites that connect to what we do here. And you can go to my business, my shameless plug for my businesses, Bill Ward Photography and Mr. Bill's STEM Education. Got to do that. I don't always do that, but I just did it now. So but anyway, you can go to those. Also, we're still pushing Shannon Williams' book, Revelation Unlocked. So he was in here for a podcast. He was also in here for in a book review, and it's a great study on Revelation, so you'll want to go and get that. So, and wait, I got to do this real quick, otherwise Jerry Whitlock will get mad.
I like to think of all kinds of helpers in our world.
That was you can't time this thing, so I never know what he's going to say. Mr. Rogers is joining us today. So, and our awesome guest here today, Pat Harrigan. Bill, so glad to have you here, brother.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Been looking forward to it. Been talking about it. I think I've mentioned to you maybe 25 times. And,
I'm sorry it took me so long to get here. But if I had known anything about the Cubs room, I might have come sooner.
I know, right? There you go. Well, I think it was more me than you because I did not contact your executive producer, who happens to be your wife.
Yes.
And so then when I found out that that's how I got to get
and then it happened pretty quickly,
right? It was like within a day.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I know, I get it. That's great.
Funny how that works.
I know it. I love it. So it's Harrigan, by the way. Do not call him Harrington. Or whatever else.
I take all.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there were things that you were introduced at, and they would be like, and here's Pat Harrington, and I'm like, is he not going? And you didn't correct him. I was really proud of you. That's pretty cool. So, but anyway, and we have some friends at church that are Harringtons, so it kind of took me a while to get used to the Harrigan.
I've never met any Harringtons that are actually bad people, and so you kind of lump us all in the same group, and it's okay.
It's got to be the same derivative anyway, right?
Basically.
Maybe I don't know. So anyway, well, tell us who Pat Harrigan is, or tell them. I know who you are.
So I'm Pat Harrigan. I'm running for Congress in the 14th District of North Carolina, and we got new maps this week, which was pretty fun.
Yep.
But I'm a husband. I'm a father of two beautiful little girls. I am a former special operator, former Green Beret, was a commander in the Special Forces, and I'm a business owner. I have a business up in Burke County, North Carolina, that my wife and I started in our little double-wide trailer out in Fayetteville when I was still in the military, and it's grown over the last few years. So this has been an incredible journey, and I'm glad to spend some time here with you.
Oh, that's cool. So we're glad to have you here. So we talked about this a little bit before we started the recording part of it. So the important question is letting us know, when did you realize the importance of becoming a godly man?
I think through the process of coming to Christ, I realized how important and how much of an impact a godly man can make on this world.
Yeah.
And, I didn't come to Christ until I was 17 years old. Okay. My dad was, my mom and dad are older. And so they're from that kind of tradition in the United States where Protestants don't really talk to Catholics where they were. And guess what? My dad's a Protestant, mom's a Catholic, and they kind of decided on nothing.
Yeah.
And so
you kind of came up the way I did. Yeah.
So I actually, when I was in high school, I felt like something was really missing in my life.
Yeah.
I couldn't really like put my finger on it. And I watched on television a Billy Graham crusade.
Ah, man.
And I was like, that is what I'm
Yeah,
missing
yeah,
right there.
yeah.
And, if you look back at how Billy Graham actually lived his life, I mean, he was an incredible man.
Mhm.
I mean, a truly incredible human being. A premier example of what a godly man is. And doing what I do now, I really appreciate it because, Billy Graham, there's a lot of people that wanted to take that guy out, right? I mean, they just wanted to find him in compromising situations. I mean, the things his staff had to do to actually keep him on the straight and narrow, even from situations that were just manufactured by other people. Truly fascinating.
Yep.
And when you have to live your life with that kind of intentionality, in order to have the impact that God wants you to have, it's just a whole different level of commitment aside from just cerebrally understanding what it means to be a Christian in the faith, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, if there's another kind of defining moment or moments in my life where I realized, how important it is to be a godly man, I would say it's when I got married and when I had kids.
Oh, yeah.
Because you realize, okay, hey, this is now a practical application of all those things that I've learned. What kind of a husband am I going to be leading my wife? What kind of a father am I going to be leading my children? How are they going to be raised in a home with strong Christian leadership?
Right.
Because it sets the stage for what kind of kids they're going to grow up to be. And you realize that's the practical application of all of this that builds as time goes on, as you get older, and you see just the massive impact that it can have, not just on an individual life. When you look at yourself, your family, those friends and family around you, but also just the people that you get to interact with and impact along the way in whatever the course of doing whatever you're doing. And in my case, I get to meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity. It's my own little ministry. So
that's cool. That's good.
Incredibly important.
Yeah. So it is amazing. Well, first of all, it's not amazing, but it is amazing in the life of Billy Graham. He has been mentioned. I'm not going to say every podcast, but I would say 90% of the podcasts. And it's amazing the impact that he's made on lives of so many men. And you just explained what God has set up for us, to understand the responsibility of being that godly man for our families, for our spouses, for those who are surrounded in our community, that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool. I like that. That's great. Good stuff. So would Billy Graham be your biggest inspiration, or was there somebody else, man or woman, that you might want to mention as having been inspiring for your walk in Christ?
Yeah, I would definitely say Billy Graham is probably that central figure outside of Christ.
Sure.
And part of it's just my experience. I came from the United States Military Academy at West Point, and West Point and the military, just in general, parts of it are very, very entrenched in the faith, as you might imagine that they would be.
Sure.
And so I got a lot of exposure to organizations like the Navigators, who work primarily on a one-on-one basis of discipleship, right? Like you put a lot of effort into one person, and the idea is that person, then transforms their own lives, through the acceptance of Christ and the Holy Spirit. And then they take that and they have a whole bunch of one-on-one interactions, dedicated discipleship model effectively, where it's kind of like pay it forward, right? But the Navigator's been doing that for a long, long time and got very involved in that organization. I ended up going to I spent the first semester of my junior year at West Point, actually out at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs.
Wow.
I got to do a transfer program. So every year, the academies, they swap 8 cadets around. So, West Point will send 8 to Air Force and 8 to Navy and, vice versa. And Colorado Springs is just a huge faith community. And so having that semester there, really, I grew in my faith in that semester of time more than any other time, because that's also where the Navigators are based out of. And that's where a lot of the authors that write or wrote for the Navigators, Nav Press, are based out of there too. And so, when you're having your Navigators meetings every week, you're getting like world-class authors coming in cool. and talking. It was really, really awesome. And so, but all that to say, coming back to Billy Graham, that Thanksgiving, the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association actually put me and a bunch of other cadets that were affiliated with the Navigators on a plane, and we came to Asheville, and that was my first interaction with introduction to North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. And you loved it.
We did the retreat out at the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association retreat center out there outside of Asheville. And so, and then as I continued through my walk with Christ, as I became a military officer, as I became an infantry officer, and then later on down the road as I became a special operator. And, the line between the world that we live in and the next world, became very close. It seemed like Billy Graham or his organization was always there in some way, shape, or form. And so I have to say that there's probably not somebody or someone's organization that has had a greater impact on my life, whether because it was just interacting with me at the right time or whether it was putting the resources in the right place to have as significant of an impact on my life as he did.
Cool. So. They need to hire you as a spokesman for the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. That'd be good.
I'm actually pretty tight with the Samaritan's Purse people.
That's cool.
Just it keeps going. I mean, the things that they've done, never underestimate what one person who's full of the Holy Spirit can do in this world.
We do the shoe boxes every year, but during COVID, this is about you, but since you mentioned that, being out of work, I had the opportunity to work at the processing center, and it was just amazing. I mean, being there as a volunteer is one thing, but being there as an employee was just crazy. It was amazing. It literally changed my life. It was pretty cool stuff. Good people, but great stuff that they're doing, and obviously they've affected you, and that's pretty amazing too.
Absolutely.
So having said that, so you've been involved in a lot of other things going forward, many years.
Yeah.
What is the most effective thing, most effective thing you do in your godly walk to affect the life or the lives of other men or other boys?
I think the direct answer to that question is intentionally putting myself in a place where, number one, I have to lead, and number two, that stretches my ability to lead. I look at my time in the military. My first combat deployment was actually at a very remote combat outpost in the middle of Afghanistan. No roads to it whatsoever. It was air access only, and I was a little 24-year-old rolling around. I had like 400 people because I had 40 Americans, but then I had all these Afghans. And this is back before all the green on the blues, and they kind of separated the Afghans and the Americans. Like we were all together in one spot. Okay. And I was the guy.
Yeah.
And, obviously you've got the collision of Christianity, Islam, certainly unbelief as well. And just having the opportunity to minister to those folks, because look, there's no chapel, there's no chaplain. He's not flying out on a helicopter every Sunday.
Right.
He's doing that once
for the entire time
we're there. Right. No, yeah.
Well, the tent revival was probably in your tent, right?
We used the chow hall that we had, the small little chow
hall revival.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And actually, it's look, when being in the military for me was an amazing experience spiritually, because you get to walk very close to the afterlife at all times. You're constantly around it, right? Our society really removes death from our day-to-day living. You very rarely see death. If you're work at a hospital, if you're law enforcement, or if you're going to a funeral, right, of somebody that you knew. Really, that is the points that our society has kind of accepted the influence of death in our day-to-day living. We try to not think about it at all. Right. And in the military, it's not the case at all. You're daily, right? Exactly. You're dealing with that line. And so it forces a lot of people, kids, right? Because that's who fights our wars, right? Forces a lot of kids to ask the question, who am I? What am I doing? Why am I here? Right? I mean, just these basic questions that you have of life that they never had to stop to ask before, because our society makes it very difficult to stop to ask those questions. And boy, if you can just be in the right place at the right time, and you can have enough courage to speak the faith, speak the truth, take people through the word, you can have a massive impact on people's lives. And that's what I miss most about the military. You know, up until the time that I left, the military was my ministry. Wow. Particularly when I moved over to special operations, because, you know, one thing that's very different about special operations is it's not really at all a Christian environment. I mean, you would think that special operations across the military would be much tighter with the faith. Yeah, it is the exact opposite of what you would think. And you know, you just be amazed.
Wonder why that you know, separating yourself from the potential of
that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay.
Well, good. We'll have you back. I know the answer.
Okay. We'll have you back. That'll be the second podcast. Right. There you go.
But sorry about that. No, not at all. So to have that impact, particularly on those special operators, was the joy of my life. Nice. I mean, it really was. And when I look back and I say, you know, what are the greatest things that I've accomplished along the way? You know, it's got nothing to do with business. It's got nothing to do with fighting the physical battles that we fought and won in the military. It has everything to do with guiding others along the walk to finding the truth and being saved.
Gotcha.
Nothing beats that.
Yeah. So this is a setup question, but have you been able to extend some of those relationships beyond that stay there? I mean, has that been an opportunity that you've been able to take part of?
What do you mean?
Well, when you guys come out and you're back in the world and everybody goes their separate ways.
Yep. Yeah.
So, but have you had any opportunities to reconnect with anybody?
Absolutely.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah. And I still counsel many.
Oh, wow.
Of the folks that used to work for me.
Nice.
I still counsel them in their faith.
There you go.
If they run into a hard situation, I'm always there on the other end of the line. Nice. And I guess they think enough of me to pick up the phone and call. And I will do that until the day that I die.
Awesome. That's
and
cool.
I love it. It's great.
Well, that sounds like it affects their lives tremendously.
It's that part about the navigators and that one-on-one discipleship has always really stuck with me, because if you can turn around a life, you can multiply the impact beyond anything that you could ever imagine being able to accomplish personally. And I'll tell you one more thing about the navigators here. So I went to a navigators retreat down in Georgia one year, and there was a guy by the name of Chuck Wood. And Chuck Wood was, kind of one of these original navigator folks. And somebody was talking to me. There was probably about 350 people at this gathering. And somebody came up to me and he's like, do you realize one way or another, every single person is in this room, and a lot of the people that are in this room have faith because of this guy, Chuck Wood. Wow. And when you realize that and you sit back and you say, wow, that was what this man dedicated his life to doing, and look at the fruit of that. Wow, right. And nobody knows Chuck Wood, God knows Chuck Wood.
Except those guys in that room. Yeah.
Except those guys in that room.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Well, even Billy Graham said that he's, when he gets there, he's going to receive less accolades than the Sunday school teacher that taught, hundreds of kids going through the Sunday school over the years that nobody even knows about, but all the lives that she touched. So,
And that's a godly man's understanding of a greater purpose in life.
Yeah, that's cool.
Awesome. To have that humility too.
Good deal. That's great. Cool, man. Very good. Now to the topics.
Oh, what are the topics?
You get to pick the topic.
I get to pick them.
You can tell us 5 men who've inspired you, 5 women who've inspired you, 5 heroes of the faith, either biblical heroes or here. Now you've already told us of 2, so you've already knocked some of those out. You got Billy Graham and Chuck Wood; those are probably 2, right? Or you can give us 5 books of the Bible that are your favorite, a Psalm that's your favorite, Proverbs that's your. Well, now here's an interesting thing. Paul Brentley did all of this.
Really?
Yeah,
I would expect nothing less from Paul.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of what somebody else said. So Jason said, "I'm not doing that."
I mean, he's a doctor.
Yeah, he knocked.
I'm just Pat.
I was shocked. He's the only one that's done all of them. There have been some who've done a couple and kind of expanded. So we'll let you choose.
Okay,
So
let's go. Let's do a Bible verse.
So go ahead and give us your favorite verse there.
So on the inside of my West Point ring is inscribed the verse, Matthew chapter 16, verses 24 through 27, which is Jesus addressing his disciples and saying, if anyone chooses to come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. For anyone who wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world yet forfeits his soul?
Mm-hmm.
Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and he will reward each according to what he has done. That's a very powerful verse to me for a number of different reasons, but it cuts at the heart of selfishness, which is really, the sin of all sins, right?
Pride.
And ultimately, I think that it is something that makes you realize, hey, I'm here for someone else.
Yeah.
I'm here on behalf of someone else.
Yep.
The mission that I have is not my own. I've made it my own, but it is someone else's. And there is a lot of responsibility associated with that. There's a massive cost associated with that, and you have to be willing to pay that cost.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to pay that cost, then you're actually not here really for the right reasons.
Yeah. Yep.
And I look at that from the perspective of a family man. I look at that from the perspective of a business owner, business leader. And I look at that from the perspective of someone who's now in politics. And, boy, on the political side, it sure lays bare the current state of things.
Yes, it does.
Unfortunately.
Yes, it does. Yeah. I've discussed that with a couple people lately. It's like, we don't want to go there. Not for this. That is a greater purpose. By the way, we're not political here, but we do say, we do admonish men, especially we're talking to here, that you need to be serving, and that includes in a political arena. If you're not capable, then you support the people who are. You pray for the people who are. I've had people say, "Oh, well, I vote." Okay, well, that's not enough. If there's not at least one person in your family that's out there representing what we stand for biblically, then you're not representing. And you're not being represented. That's why we had to send Donnie Loftus and Brad Overcash and all those guys to Raleigh to get our parental rights back after 40 years of us not following through as a church.
Sure.
So, but anyway, so the greater purpose, we've got to sacrifice those things. If we were sacrificing earlier, then we wouldn't be sacrificing as much as we are right now. So,
yes, that's absolutely true.
but still sacrificing, and serving. So the greater purpose. Awesome. Cool. Anybody else you want to mention? How about who is your hero of the faith? Who's your favorite biblical hero?
David.
Okay, got to go with David.
David.
Now wait a minute.
Maybe it's the fighter in me. The underdog.
You're as tall as Goliath.
I know. Well,
so I don't know.
Don't tell anybody.
Okay,
pretty good with a slingshot.
Yeah, that's right. I bet you are. Yeah, a little bit of a slingshot, right? That's cool. So a man after God's own heart. Cool. All right, that's great. So anything else you want to expand on there?
No, I think Bill, this is an incredible area. I mean, I didn't even see. I just am now noticing the hats.
I know. There's things everywhere. So he's talking about the Cubs room, guys. So you got to come see the Cubs room. So there's the push for the Cubs room, right? I didn't even ask him for that. And we didn't get into the last part of it, which is your sports-related story. But before you give us your sports-related story, you have some time to think about it. I have to give you your parting gifts.
Oh, boy.
First of all, your first parting gift is a wonderful bottle of hand sanitizer. And you're like, what? But see, it says Mr. Bill's STEM education classes.
Really?
And
a private label.
And Bill Ward Photography. Huh. Yeah, so after COVID, Staples couldn't get rid of these things. They were practically giving them away. So
wow.
Basically, all I paid for was the label.
You just relabeled them.
No. They sold this bottle, bottles, boxes of these. The bottles were less printed than it was for a bottle of hand sanitizer.
Got it.
Yeah, they were like 20 cents a piece.
Amazing.
It was crazy. So
I will cherish this.
I know that you will. I know that you're
incredible.
I'm sure you will. And you also receive, before you leave, I will autograph this official Willie Ace, Chicago Cubs baseball card. It's official, and I will number it because you're podcast number 34, so I'll number it number 34. It's worth absolutely nothing, but hey, what the heck? Apparently, there's one of these in Raleigh, 2 in Raleigh now.
It could be worth something someday.
Someday it could be.
Yep.
After I'm dead and gone, maybe.
People need to realize how important soil and water is
Yes,
to their everyday lives.
There's the plug for the Gaston County Soil and Water. Thank you. See, he's plugging everything for me. I love it. This is great. We got to get you back here, dude. But I will autograph that before you leave. And the most exciting thing, the most wonderfully exciting gift of all, parting gift of all, is you get to choose a Lego superhero. And
Holy smokes.
And you say, why a Lego superhero?
Why a Lego superhero,
Perfect.
Bill?
You did that right on cue, and we didn't practice that. Well, the reason, multiple reasons. Number one, STEM, science, technology, engineering. In my classes, we build Legos robots. So there's the tie in there. But also because we believe that the men who come in here for the Greater Purpose podcast are also superheroes. So they get to choose from what's in the stack. Is that Thor? I think it's Thor. Maybe you don't know, right?
So I got 2 girls. So what do you got that's a little girly?
Well, there are no
so
girls.
much.
They're all boys.
Okay,
They're all
that's
boys.
all right. Well, how about
no
Captain
black,
America?
There's
That
no
sounds
Black
good.
Widow or anything in here. I know. I need to get some of those.
Captain America is great.
Okay, Captain America.
Yep.
Good, because I have 2 of those.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
Now you got one.
So you got your captain. Yeah, we actually had a guy.
I'll have to buy Brad Overcash for the other one.
So he got the Hulk.
Really?
And I actually had I don't have any more. They sent me one that was like bigger than the regular ones.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to give it out.
Yeah.
But they just came back from smashing the Vito's in Raleigh. So he said, I want the big Hulk. So supposedly, if you go visit him, here, I need you to check these offices when you go there. We're calling these guys out. Donnie's office, Ted's office, and Brad's office. And if you walk in there and there's not
one of those, you need to know.
Or a bottle of hand sanitizer.
I'll let you know.
Or at least my card. I mean, something. I want to know. I got to call him out. So Brad said he did that. He said he's sitting there on his credenza. Yeah. But we'll see anyway. So now for the sports story. I know you got one.
Yeah, I got to say. So I'm a lifelong Utah Jazz fan. Always have been.
Is that a team?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Sorry. No, sorry about that. I know. Yeah, I know. It's basketball, right?
All right, Bill. I'm not a fan of the Cubs, but I'm pretending here. I'm doing a pretty good job inside of this.
I was just talking to somebody about the Utah Jazz the other day. I really was. Somebody that's from Utah.
So big Karl Malone, John Stockton, Jeff Hornacek, Greg Ostertag, the glory days, right?
Yeah.
And I got to say that, unfortunately, the greatest sports story that I have seen in my life transpire was Michael Jordan's finals performance when he had the flu.
Oh yeah.
That was like 94 or 95. I can't remember what it was, but everybody knows what it's like to be sick, and it is really tough to perform at a high level when you just want to,
or at any level,
die for the night, right? Yeah. And to actually come out and perform how he performed showed everybody a ton of guts. Sure, it was very inspirational. Yeah. To me as a young kid, and I won't forget it.
Even as a Utah Jazz fan.
Even as a Utah Jazz fan, I know it was rough. It was hard, but
kind of funny because you're seeing all these posts now about all the great basketball players and all that kind of stuff. And at the top of the list, there's always Michael Jordan. There's no way you can argue that.
They don't make them like they used to.
They sure don't. They sure don't.
The NBA is not the same.
Yeah, we could that could be a whole other show too. Yeah, right. So go down, dunk. Yeah, no defense anyway. Whatever. Yeah, we good. Anyway, so Pat, so glad to have you in here. Let's see what what's his name has to say, Mr. Rogers.
There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are.
See there, I did not even know that's what he was going to say, but that was perfect.
Makes it all worth it
for the Greater Purpose podcast. All worth it. Guys, subscribe, like it, share it. Tell your friends about it. Get it out there. We appreciate you guys being out there. And anything you have to say, share with us. Let us know. We'd like to have the information back here with us. So, but Pat Harrigan, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
All right,
it's good to see y'all.
God bless.
Yeah.
Take care.
Same to you.